I'm going to go ahead and share my screens just to have some slides alongside this. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm always so grateful to this community and to Celia Hoden, who continuously puts the time in to organize this, bring us together, especially for everyone passionate about games and UX. Over the next 15 minutes, I hope to shine some light on the journey of what it's like to be a UX practitioner at a rapidly growing and successful startup. My hope is by the end that you have some practices that you can incorporate into your day-to-day work. Let go of that feeling that you really need to perform the perfect UX process, and you can really create exceptional games, services, and experiences. I won't go into the nitty-gritty because, again, this is only 15 minutes, but please, please, please feel free to reach out to me afterwards if you want to dive into any details or want to see how you can apply this to your own experiences and your own practices. Quick intro, my name is Devon Wyland. I've always had a passion for games and human-centric experiences. I started with a degree in computer science with a focus in game design at UC Santa Cruz. And then I worked short stints at Mercedes-Benz Research and Development and a digital media agency called Globant. This is where I learned about guidelines, practices to achieve high degree of quality, adherence to standards, and really collaborating with cross-functional and international teams to deliver high-performance solutions. I then spent nearly a decade at GSN Games and Big Fish Games collectively. I observed and experienced a lack of player-centeredness and unhealthy use of players' addictive tendencies for monetary gain. So this is really kind of a pain point and kind of an aha moment for me that something needed to change. And this is where I'm really excited to say that I'm part of Solston. We are a rapidly growing startup that values high-quality experiences and players' well-being. As of now, we are a SaaS company that's offering dashboards for player insights powered by clinical psychology with a brilliant machine learning and data engineering team to empower game developers to architect human-centered experiences. So I'm very grateful to be able to share my experience with you guys today about this journey that I've had at Solston. So over the past 5 years, we've accomplished an incredible feat. I've been very fortunate to be here pretty much every step of the way. As probably many people are aware of, many startups do not prioritize hiring UX design early on. So I feel very privileged to be part of this. This is starting everything from initial clickable wireframe prototypes and then helping to achieve the incredible, especially after COVID and many SaaS companies taking a major hit over the past few years. We ended up securing 21 million in funding and were named Best Workplaces for Innovators this year by Fast Company, in addition to supporting some of the top game developers like Supercell, Activision Blizzard, and Sony. So starting at the very, very beginning, I'm going to be speaking primarily to the UX side of things, but I think it's helpful to communicate kind of the funding and the investment that we have along the way. So here I was very fortunate to help the co-founders draft initial artifacts to gain initial investment in their first customers. So high level, kind of what I helped to do here was to visualize that 10-year vision. So really about showing, not telling investors what we're trying to achieve. So using experience maps and visuals here to lean on those visuals to articulate that vision. In addition to leaning on the shared experience of me and the co-founder in the gaming industry, leaning on our networks and testing that first clickable prototype hypothesis, rapidly evolving that based on feedback, talking to people, just getting it in front of friends, families, investors, anyone that we could to be able to get that initial feedback. So during this process, it was really about speed, leaning on our existing knowledge, really leaning in on your superpowers and knowing kind of where your weaknesses are and asking for support in those areas. It's really about gaining that traction quickly. So in total, the prototype and everything kind of took us, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks to collaborate quite closely on getting those initial artifacts together. And then, of course, making adjustments as we started to get more insight. And then within the first 6 months, we got our first customer, and very, very soon after, we got that first case study. So with this early success, we then ended up securing our seed funding round, which was great because then I could be hired for full time and quit my day job and really join and help scale Solston at this point. So I moved on site to a co-working space with the team in Berlin, Germany, because working on site, we could just get things done a lot faster. So I was working alongside our 2 co-founders, 1 data scientist, 1 back-end engineer, and 2 front-end developers, where we could learn from our first prototype, a handful of customers, and a growing need for player understanding within the gaming industry to actually inform our second product. It still resulted to be more of kind of a proof of concept at that point in time, but it was a lot of scrappy UX at this point because our goal was really to identify and achieve product market fit. So lots of experimentation. We really didn't have any competitors, so there's no one really to look to. So we were just really trying to learn what sticks, what doesn't stick, where do we really need to invest that time within the industry to solve our customers' needs. So some of the big learnings from this was really just to stay lean, stand on the shoulders of giants, trust in best practices. So I was thinking about things like, aesthetics. So tried and true, what are free resources? So utilizing Google Material Design Library, thinking about usability, leaning on Jacob Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics. How do we set ourselves apart and think about novelty? So that's where I was seeking inspiration from websites like Awards, Dribbble, anything that's relevant to the product or game or experience that I was designing. I was also looking at best in class within the space that I'm looking at. So within games that can be, different genres, different, top titles. But for us within SaaS, we were looking at things like HubSpot, Salesforce, or Qualtrics. And then in addition to that, I mean, we all desire to practice that ideal UX process. But I was leaning quite a bit on Leah Booley's book, User Experience Team of One, where she goes through kind of what that ideal process is and what a lot of these different tools are that you can use, but then focuses in on like if you can only do one thing, like do guerrilla research or whatever that ends up being throughout that process. And this was extremely helpful for me really early in these startup days. In addition to that, I mean, as we know, you as part of our title as UX designers, so really trying to incorporate humans throughout the process wherever we possibly can. So I had a constant feed of user insights from our founders who were attending conferences, selling, doing customer success work. I also heavily leaned on my environment within that co-working space. So we were working at Mindspace in Berlin, where I could basically just walk up to other teams, other individuals just to get some feedback, which helped to work out a lot of those early usability issues. And it wasn't not only important to empathize with our users and kind of what we're trying to develop, but also to empathize with our team. So identifying what are the resources and limitations that we have. So what do we have in terms of development resources, but also on the data side, because we needed a lot of data to inform the insights within our platform. So I was working very closely with our data science team to see what can we do with a very limited data set at that point in time, because we didn't have enough customers or a thread of data at this point in our startup days. And I could dive into all of the nitty gritty. There's a lot more that was happening, but just in the interest of time, we did get to that point that we secured product market fit. And I want to dive a little bit more into what happened during Series A funding round. So this was an exciting time. It was also a very, very busy time. As a UX practitioner, I was wearing basically all of the hats. We had about 15 people at this point in time, but investing more on the data team and customer success. We were starting to build more confidence around who our buyers are, but we didn't have enough users at that point in time to get clear signals around who that ideal user profile is to be able to unlock the greatest amount of value for them. So there was a lot of work on our side to be able to push and kind of create a lot more hypotheses to really deeply understand what our users' needs are. But yeah, really from the UX side, actually from really every individual on the team, we were all wearing a lot of hats. So we had customers even saying, we thought you were like 50 people or 70 people, not 15 people. So I think this is something, especially if you're going into kind of that mid stage as you're starting to scale and grow, either from a game development perspective or a startup phase. This is where just being comfortable with that. I mean, I was UX designer, but I was also supporting on the customer success side. I was a game design consultant. I was a player researcher. I was a product manager, project manager, which was honestly invaluable to be in that point because I had so many touch points with our customers. And I was also able to have those constant touch points with the business to understand what our KPIs are and ensuring that our solutions are actually delivering against those KPIs as well. So some of the key takeaways from this stage was really about like quantity with intention. And what I mean by this is like really understanding that like everything that we're putting into the experience at this point in time is aligned with our bigger vision, but it's also aligned, or it's an opportunity for us to learn about what is aligning to our users' needs or not. So we started to incorporate a lot more features that were targeted across the entire game development journey. So things around features to help with targeting audiences or to help uncover creative that maybe best resonates with a target audience. Helping to map out the player's journey from first awareness of that game experience to elder players. or giving a snapshot overview of like, what are the different persona profiles that exist within your audience or different archetypes within your audience to help inform those next decisions within the game. So there's just tons of features at this point in time. So lots of idea or hypothesis exploration from the UX design side, lots of researching trends in the market, talking with customers, getting out there to ensure that we're aligned with what the industry's needs are. Additionally, during this time, quality was really important to us. In a world of fast fashion, cheap knockoffs, a market flooded with a lot of copycats that are trying to ride the wave of other products or games, we wanted to differentiate ourselves in terms of quality and attention to detail. So developers probably hated us, but we did spend a lot of time to really invest in like what are best in class design guidelines, what are trends in UI patterns like neumorphic at the time, how can we align our system to the user's reality and real world? So because we're presenting persona profiles, could we pull from magic cards or character stats within a game similar to Clash Royale to help inform those and help with early adoption? And then, yeah, that approach worked. So we ended up securing our Series B funding. And we got to the point where we did find that value, but now we're getting feedback like things like, I just wanted a Volkswagen Golf, but you gave me a Ferrari. I don't know how to drive a Ferrari. So we got to that moment, but how do we now narrow down into really what's going to be valuable and get those insights to our users faster, which is kind of where we're at today. So still a lot of learning, but a lot of what I would consolidate that down into is just a professionalization. So we now have more resources to be able to invest in getting that confidence behind the data that we are presenting. We do have a lot of confidence already, but we have the funding to be able to help with running clinical trials to ensure that our insights are actually healthier for people. And that we're investing more in R&D and machine learning and AI to have real-time tailored interpretations of those insights. So as a UX designer, it's a really tricky time because there's also a lot of UX and technical debt, but it's also an opportunity to actually start actualizing a lot of these optimal UX processes that at the start I really wanted to do, but now we actually have the bandwidth to be able to do that. So we now have this luxury to be able to actually befriend and take the time to understand our users on a deeper level. We're attending conferences more, we're getting in front of users, we're building a user repository so that we can actually get some design hypotheses in front of them more. We're building that trust so that our users are going to be more honest with us too. They can tell us what is shit and what is amazing about our experience so we can make it better for them as well. In addition to that, we are scaling our resources. So again, we have the support and the proof cases to be able to then say that, you know, we can hire more, we can grow more, we can understand that what the impact is of our new features. So we can actually invest more in actually tracking a lot of these metrics throughout the platform. We also now have like a really close collaboration with the data team so that we can start automating a lot of these routine tasks that have been taking a substantial amount of time and effort from our customer-facing teams. So we free up their time and are able to provide more customer or a higher quality of customer service to them as well. So I know this is a lot. So in conclusion, I covered a lot in a very short period of time, but if there's only a couple things that you want to take away from this, really involve people in your process, adapt to the resources that you have and be aware of that and try to fill in kind of those gaps where you can. And perfection is a myth. Be sure to experiment, learn, and just really have fun throughout this entire process. And as mentioned at the beginning, I am more than happy to connect. I know, again, I went through this quite quickly. So if there's any areas that you want to talk to in more detail, or you want to know how you can apply this to your own product or studio or game, definitely feel free to reach out and I'm happy to work with you there too. Cool. Thank you.